Now, down in your neck of the woods, Jason Garrett, Cowboys coach, always a lot of pressure on the Cowboys coach and quarterback, obviously, as you know, and a lot of controversy about how they lost that game to the Cardinals last week, some clock management issues. And just in that particular case, can you talk a little bit about managing the clock at the end of the game? What's the responsibility of the coach? What's the responsibility of the quarterback? And how was that kind of botched at the end of the Cardinals game?
Well, what's interesting about the Cowboys game is, and really I guess for any game, it's easy for us to stand on the sidelines, and even for me to be in the booth and say, here's what should happen, here's what they should have done. And not that that means that you're not always right when you say those things, but we don't have all the information. And so in that Cowboys game, I thought it was interesting listening to Jason Garrett in the post-game press conference and not really explaining what exactly happened or what the mechanics were that were in place. It sure seemed to me that the Cowboys weren't aware of having 2 timeouts. Otherwise, I think you burn that timeout, you save the last timeout for your field goal team, but if you had used a timeout right away, then you're capable, if you make that decision, of running another play. Now, there are those, and Jason was one that said this, that well, if you run the ball and you lose yardage or you drop back to pass, you take a sack, now you take yourself out of field goal range, which happened earlier in that ball game. So at the end of the day, even if they had called timeout, you know, would they have tried to get more yardage or would they have just tried to position the ball? I don't know, but it sure seemed like an opportunity lost.
Yeah, does the fact that he calls the plays and is thinking about what play to call next change at all the clock management situation? Does it make it more challenging for him to manage that aspect of the game?
Well, I think so. I mean, there's a number of coaches in this league that are, you know, Sean Payton for one, Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, but there's other guys in this league, Norv Turner in San Diego, that call the plays and are also the head coach. And that's a lot on your plate. Now, when you've not been a head coach before, and then you're put in that position, I think for the most part, guys handle those situations very, very well. But there's a lot of things. Clock management, I think, is probably one of the most underrated aspects, and it takes a lot of time really studying it and putting yourself in a position to be successful when you get into those moments in the game. And never has it been more important than it has here over the last 10 years or so, because the games, as we see each and every week, are one-possession games, you know, late with just minutes to play in the game.
Now, bigger picture, talk about putting your team in a position to be successful. And again, this is probably a product of being in such a high-profile position, but a lot of people are saying Jason Garrett has a bigger issue, not just this one game, but that he mismanaged the Patriots game, that he had problems managing the Lions game. Is there a bigger issue for Jason Garrett as a Cowboy follower? Should I be concerned with how he manages the game overall?
You know, I don't think so. You know, the nature of this business is when you lose, there's a lot of things that are then, you know, dissected and scrutinized. You know, they beat the Miami Dolphins on Thanksgiving. They beat the Washington Redskins. They beat the San Francisco 49ers, basically in similar situations to where it was the last possession. They had to make a play, they kick a field goal, you know, against the Dolphins and the Redskins to win. They were in a position to do that. They made the kick. Would we be talking about this if they had made the field goal the second time to win the game? Yeah, I think maybe we would be addressing it. It would certainly have a little different content, you know, to that discussion. But I guess at the end of the day, no matter who you look at or what exactly happened, Jason Garrett, clock management, calling the timeout, not calling the timeout, do you try to get more yardage? At the end of the day, players have a job to do. Defensively, they didn't make a stop in overtime. It was not good defensively. And then other than that, they didn't make the field goal the second time. They didn't execute it. So I think that everybody within that organization certainly has an element of responsibility as to why they lost that game.